Hello, December the 19th has arrived and it's now less than a week to the big day itself. But there's still time for us to open a few more doors on our Lardy Advent calendar. Today we're with Sid and he is going to shed some light on just what it's like to work with Richard and Nick.
You'll like this one. So what's it like to work with Rich and Nick? Well, that is a question, and I have to say there's two answers. First of all, it's totally impossible, and at times it can really be quite wonderful. It's strange, really, because I'm quite a timely person, but Richard and Nick are both unbelievably punctual. Richard's so punctual, he's normally there an hour earlier banging on my door, which as a guy with a wife and two kids and a busy life, I find sometimes quite difficult to sort of keep up with them both. Recording with Richard and Nick, the podcast, is a terrifying experience when you're trying to go for sound quality. Richard is always fiddling with his glasses. Nick's almost always breaking something or trying to sit in a different chair. So trying to get them both sitting still and organised is really a job in itself. And the podcast is actually sort of quite tricky as well, because we've got to try and think of both topics which interest us and hopefully interest everyone else. And one of the most worrying things about doing it with Richard and Nick is that they're such interesting guys that they're always just going to wander off on something which I'd never even thought of before when writing all the sort of show notes for hosting it. And there's a physical dimension as well, because we've recorded the podcast so many times in the back of a car, and for some reason I always seem to be sat in the back. So I remember a lot of the podcasts with a little bit of leg cramp, which adds to the spice, I suppose. But on the good side, it can also be really quite fun and pretty wonderful, because loads of times I've been talking with them on the podcast and working with them and thinking, do you know, I really should try that. Or, God, that's a really good idea. I need to write that down. Or, which book was that in again? That sounds really good. And I think in that regard, going up and down the country and meeting people who've played the Lardy rules and also enjoyed the podcast, I know that that's something that everyone feels as well, from just being part of that wider Lard community and of a group of people who've played the games. So, totally impossible and really quite wonderful would be my conclusion on working with Rich and Nick.
Remember, Lard is for life and not just for Christmas.